Well, first of all, these guys have always, throughout this season, taken every game one game at a time. We continue to do that. Florida State game was last week. Pittsburgh is this week. That's the game we're focused on. We've had good practices. We have one more practice today. Nigel Pack has seen some practice time in a limited role. We keep our fingers crossed that he'll be able to go tomorrow. Tomorrow is also senior day. It's the tradition for us to start our seniors. So Isaiah Wong, Jordan Miller always in the starting lineup. They'll be there tomorrow along with Harlan Beverly and Anthony Walker. And then we'll add a fifth guy to that depending on the circumstances. So that's our situation right now.
Is Norchad, so Norchad is not an automatic one in that group? No?
Oh, no, definitely not. Okay. It'll more than likely either be Bensley Joseph or Nigel Pack.
Okay.
Go to Luke Cheney from Life Wild Sports.
Hey, Coach. Just ahead of Senior Day, can you talk about the impact that this class has made just for the now and also for the future of this program?
Well, I think you got to give a lot of credit to the seniors, especially the guys who've been here 4 years, Isaiah Wong, Harlan Beverly, and Anthony Walker, because when they arrived, we were going through a tough stretch, and they were able to help us right the ship and get us in the right direction, lead us to the Elite Eight last year, and now back competing for a league title tomorrow. So they deserve an awful lot of credit.
Go to Zuby Charles from Kane Sport. Zuby.
Hey, Coach. Second time facing Pitt this year. Just what are going to be some keys for you guys to come away with a victory this time around at home?
Quite frankly, the teams are very similar. Offensively, we're both very efficient in our field goal percentage. Defensively, we're both in the KenPom rankings in defensive efficiency, we're both a little bit over 100. So not great, but not terrible either. Both teams oftentimes are playing smaller. They have more big guys. They have a host of big guys at the center position. But beyond that, they play a group similar to our size. So the matchups are very good by both teams. Both teams are just, again, very good offensively and work very hard defensively. They are very, very physical. And we've got to do a great job of handling their physicality and getting to the foul line.
Go to Tim Reynolds from the Associated Press. Tim?
Jim, I missed the first minute because of a technological issue, so if you were asked this, I apologize. But how much do you think the seeds for this season, even though it is a different team, got planted by the way you guys finished last year?
Well, if you're talking about the ACC tournament or the NCAA tournament,
just maybe like that last, all of it. The run to the Elite Eight. You were playing better ball the last 10 games of last year. I'm just curious whether it's the NCAAs or no, or whether it's just the NCAA exclusively or no, just how much that carried over into your offseason program and how much that's helped this team become what this team has become.
Well, first of all, let me respond to the seeding. So much has to do with who you match up with and how well you play that day. And I tell my players all the time, it doesn't matter if we're in the ACC tournament or NCAA tournament, we're playing someone really good. In our case, in the ACC tournament, we're going to play on Thursday. That means even some teams have been eliminated, and you get someone who's coming off a win or two. Last year, we played Boston College a week after we had beat them at their place, and it went overtime. And we were fortunate enough, Jordan Miller made a game-winning layup at the buzzer in overtime. The NCAA tournament, we played against Southern Cal and Auburn in the first two games. They were much bigger than us, and everybody thought that would be their advantage. In fact, that really played very well into our game plan because we were able to use our shorter guys, our quicker guys, spread the floor on them and score at a very high rate. And then at our defensive end, force a lot of turnovers. So it really, Tim, has to do with how you match up with an opponent. What your seed is, not nearly as important as the matchup.
Go to Marcus Benjamin from Keynes County. Marcus.
Coach, wanted to ask about just late game situations. There's different pressure when it comes to late game situations on the road and at home. Last week, late game situation against Florida State. How much does that experience help this team against a team like Pitt coming up on Saturday where it could be a close game coming down to the end?
No, I'm sure it will be a close game. Last time we played them, it was a one-possession game. This time, I'm sure it'll be the same thing. And our team has won some very close games, starting with Virginia. We beat Louisville first, but our second win of the ACC was Virginia by 2. And we've won several games like that. We've also lost some games like that. I think because we've been through those battles, that we'll be very well prepared at the end of the game, no matter what the circumstances, whether we're ahead or behind in a close game. Our guys are very, very focused on executing the game plan.
Go to Corey Crisson from DK Pittsburgh Sports.
Jim, good afternoon. When you got to study the tape from your last matchup against Pitt, what jumped off at you as something maybe you didn't expect to see? And then is there a player that really stood out to you from that game?
Well, I think it was just a great game. I think there were really no surprises. Both teams played about like we expected, and it came down to, the last possession. We felt like we had an excellent opportunity to win that game. We were disappointed we didn't win, but we left there knowing that, hey, Pitt's a very good basketball team, and they're going to be right there until the bitter end, fighting for the league title. And sure enough, I don't think anybody expected Miami and Pitt to be playing for the championship tomorrow. Duke and Carolina, maybe even Virginia, but not Pitt and Miami. So we're very, very happy at where we are. I'm sure Jeff Capel is too.
Go to Brian Kanzer from Category 5. Brian?
Hi, Coach. There's been a lot of buzz going around campus the past week. With this being the last home game of the season, students are obviously very excited with the chance to potentially win an ACC title at home. Cat 5's also promoting a blackout, and I've heard it's going to be a sold-out crowd. So what does it mean to be able to have the chance to, play this kind of game in front of a home crowd?
Well, we've been building towards this all season long. The crowds have been great, especially the student support, and especially Category 5, really taking on the responsibility of just letting every student know that we need them at the Watsco Center to come and cheer loudly for the Hurricanes. So we greatly appreciate the student support. We greatly appreciate the fan support by our local community. And yeah, it's the students are going to be in a blackout, and my coaches and I will be wearing black, but our home team, the color is white, so the players will be in white uniforms.
Go back to Tim.
Jim, along the lines of you saying that few people probably expected Pitt and Miami to be playing for a 1 seed in this tournament to win the regular season title. When did you know you had a good team? When did you know that this team, not that it matters what people think, but when did you know that this team was going to be better than maybe some people thought?
Well, Tim, first of all, I don't concern myself about the preseason selection. Last year we were picked 12th and finished 4th. This year we were picked, I think, 4th, and we're battling for the title. So, what the media thinks or the fans think or what anybody else thinks is not as significant to me is how hard are we practicing, how well are we practicing, what kind of chemistry do we have on the court, do we have the necessary ingredients? And the simple necessary ingredients in basketball is, do we have enough scoring to put points on the board against anyone, which we do? Can we play good enough defense, force turnovers, or get defensive rebounds? And with the addition of Norshad Omir, we became a better rebounding team. With the addition of Nigel Pack, we were able to replace Charlie Moore, who was a terrific point guard and three-point shooter, with another guy who could do the same thing. So the teams are very, very similar. They're a little bit different in that Sam Wardenberg was a three-point shooter and Norshad Omir is more of an inside guy. But in terms of sharing the ball and being efficient at both ends of the court, very, very similar.
Go to Dave. Go to Dave Hyde from the Sun Sentinel. Dave.
Yeah, Jim. Just a little sidetrack here on something else. I'm doing something on advice people get and through their careers, and I'm just wondering. Has anybody said anything to you either early on or at some point that stuck with you as far as coaching or just how to lead your career at all? Anybody said anything?
Well, the gentleman that I speak to regularly to this day, and we met in 1975 at the University of Virginia, is Dr. Bob Rotella, a sports psychologist who is a very, very dear friend, and I talk to him all the time. When I became a head coach, I was a maniac on the sideline. My wife said I coached every dribble, every pass, every shot, every defensive possession. I was up and down. And eventually I spent time with Bob Rotella talking about what the objective of coaching really is, especially during the game. And he gave me this piece of advice: train, then trust. And I said, okay, what does that mean? Train the guys during practice, teach them, work with them, be demanding, disciplined, what have you. But when the game begins, trust that all your teaching will pay off during the game, and then become a cheerleader. Clap for mistakes. I said, what do you mean clap for mistakes? He said, yeah, kids don't want to look over at the bench and seeing you rant and rave. It'll question their belief in themselves and your belief in them. Just cheer for them. And I've tried to do that throughout my career.
Got time for a few more for Coach L. If you've had your hand up and haven't been called on yet, please check your chat. We'll go back to Azubi.
Hey, Coach. With Saturday's game being for the ACC regular season championship, just what would it mean for not only this year's program, this year's seniors, but the program moving forward if you guys were able to capture that ACC regular season championship?
One of the things that we wanted to do when we first came here 12 years ago is build a tradition of having former players enjoy the success while they were playing, and then those former players really following the team from a long distance. And we have that now. We've built a tradition. I stay in touch with a lot of our former players. In fact, Durant Scott and several of the former players reached out to me. They want to come back in the summertime and do an alumni event with the present players. So I think we've built a good tradition, and we have the ingredients, depending on how many guys return. In fact, 12 of our 13 players this year could actually return for action next year. Now, we don't expect all 12 to return, but that is a possibility.
All right, got time for two more. We'll go to Manny Nakarat from UMTV Sports Desk, and then we'll wrap it up with Corey.
How are you, Coach? Just wanted to ask you, with the opportunity to win the ACC regular season championship, what's the team's mentality going into the game? And also with fans showing out to a lot of these games, selling out the WAT, has the atmosphere made an impact with the players?
Well, the crowds have had a tremendous impact, and the players love it. And I've told them the best way to celebrate our 2013 ACC regular season and tournament championship is get another one on the 10th anniversary. We can celebrate the 10th anniversary by duplicating their efforts, and this team certainly has that potential.
All right, last question for Coach L. We'll go back to Corey.
Jim, Coach Cable has talked about having to battle some of his own adversity in building this Pitt program, but just what are your impressions on the job that he's been able to do this year?
Well, whenever you take over a program, the status of the program has a lot to do with how quickly you can build it. And I think when Coach Capel took over the Pitt program, they were at the bottom of the league. In fact, if I remember correctly, they hadn't even won a single conference game that previous year. So it takes time to implement your culture, your offensive and defensive philosophy, and also your ability to recruit the players that would fit in with what you want to do. And I think he's taken it step by step. He was an outstanding player, so he's got a good feel for players. He was an outstanding assistant coach at Duke and has had head coaching experience. Coach Capel and I faced each other when he was at VCU and I was at George Mason. So he has a lot of experience of knowing how to build a program, and he's done that quite successfully this year.
All right, Coach, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.
We'll have players in short.